What's up, YouTube? Greetings to the world. It's show time. Let's get it. Welcome, one and all. I'm Wolf King, and you're watching Wolf King's vids. Okay, so tonight we got a very special show. We got Dr. Steve Turley. He's going to be talking about a particular mega church in California and how it's defying the lockdown order despite the coronavirus surging. Let's watch that real quick. Okay, where is he at? All right, there we go. Yep.
The very real uprising that's going on quite literally everywhere against draconian COVID-19 restrictions. Now, just to set the stage here, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the latest absurd Supreme Court ruling that decided that casinos could stay open and do business while churches had to remain closed. Do you remember this? It was the turncoat John Roberts.
Oh yeah, I remember this case. Yeah, Nevada said they could keep their, they could reopen casinos, but they did have to practice. They do indeed have to practice social distancing. They have to wear masks. Yeah, that could be done over churches due to the duration and close quarters. Other venues like movies and museums have the same problem and the same 50-person limit. So, you know, there's that.
Who decided in 5-4 ruling that had the audacity to say that the state of Nevada was well within its rights to impose tighter restrictions on churches than on casinos. Casinos can be open for business, no problem, but praying in church on Sunday, nope. That's not allowed in the world of the left-wing lunatic lockdown.
Well, I mean, you know, you still communicate about how much you love Jeebus and stuff like that. You know, you could do live streams. You know, there's some people who are meeting in parking lots and doing it on their lawns, but you have to practice social distancing. You know, you have to do whatever you can in order to have lesser cases of the coronavirus. And churches tend to be big sources for that. We're going to get into that later on in the video. But yeah, you just have to practice social distancing. And congregating in a small building to do that, that's a problem now.
Down. You can do slot machines, but you can't do sacraments. And obviously this angered more Christians than anyone could have imagined. And so as a result, we really are seeing a massive revolt and uprising among conservative Christians all across the country. Now, in many respects, this uprising is being led by the mega church pastor John MacArthur of Grace Community Church in Sun Valley, Los Angeles. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. If you're not familiar with MacArthur, he pastors a massive church made up of several thousand congregants. And I believe he's written like 400 books. I mean, he's an absolute powerhouse of a pastor. Well, MacArthur's defying California.
So, mega church pastor Arthur made books. New resume.
Regulations that have gone so far as to ban singing in church services as well as indoor worship. MacArthur and his massive 1,000+ congregation have said in no uncertain.
I know, right? It's crazy. A state with a higher population density, they're putting tighter restrictions on a place that could very well be an easy transmitter for the COVID-19 virus. I mean, come on. It's a no-brainer. Of course they're going to fucking stop that from going on.
Terms.
I mean, it is respiratory, so yeah. Fuck that.
You know what you can do with that order. You know what you can do with that ban. And so as a result, the city of Los Angeles, the leftist liberals in LA, the very same radicals, keep in mind, that sat back and watched with approval their city's businesses getting robbed and looted, all in the name of social justice. The city with Mayor Eric Garcetti, who cut $150 million from the LA Police Department budget just to show his fidelity to the BLM call to fund the police. Yes, now.
Yeah, I don't see what you bitching about BLM and strawmanning their protests and complaining that mayor reallocated funds from the law enforcement in that area to other places. I don't see what that has to do with this church incident. But can we continue?
These same leftist loons are threatening to imprison Pastor MacArthur. They've issued Grace Community Church a cease and desist letter for continuing indoor worship services that have been banned.
Yeah, that's what happens when you break the law. You get arrested, you get fined. That's pretty much how the criminal justice system works. There's also a part in the Bible where it says you have to render Caesar unto Caesar. I'm pretty sure that's in the book of Luke. So yeah, that basically means that Christians, while in their particular country, there have to follow the laws of the land. So yeah, if you don't render Caesar unto Caesar, yeah, you're gonna get fucked. Bad.
They're threatening a daily $1,000 fine until the church complies, and of course, if needed, MacArthur's arrest as well as taking the church to court. So not to be outdone, you ready for this? This is so awesome. John MacArthur is getting special counsel from President Trump's personal attorney, Jenna Ellis. Now again, guys, this is what makes Trump so awesome. He's a fighter.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Trump is awesome to conservative Christians. Yeah, he tends to pander to them, tends to play on their insecurities to help them out, to make it seem like he cares for for the church in the right way. It would really he's just kind of like stoking the flames of a culture war. That's sort of what he's depending on in order to get to remain the incumbent within the White House. So I'm not surprised by that.
And as a fighter, he's absolutely willing to stand right next to us when the leftist loons start attacking. He walks the talk. In an interview with the Christian Post, Ellis said, quote, "I stand firmly with Grace Community Church, its elder board, and Pastor MacArthur in biblical truth and the protections American churches are provided by our Constitution. I look forward to advocating on their behalf and hopefully encouraging other pastors and churches to also have the courage of Pastor MacArthur to stand firm that church."
Okay, this guy reminds me of those TV doctors like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, Dr. Drew. This guy, this particular Dr. Turley, he's a doctor in religious studies, basically. But going back to those guys a month or so ago, these TV doctors played basically experts for hire, downplaying the COVID-19 pandemic. None of them were or are experts on the pandemic situation, but they felt the need to give their commentary and be talking heads for media attention. That's like my landscaper giving me advice on how to manage my finances. This guy here has no idea how transmissions of pathogens work, how to maintain public health, but he's in full support of this death cult breaking the law and Trump just pandering to it. So what if people can't sit around in a room jacking off to how much they love Jeebus all day? So what if they have to change up their schedule for the sake of maintaining their health and basically making sure people are less infected and then there are less cases in which people have to die unnecessarily? That matters more than getting your jollies off to religious belief or activity or whatever. But let's continue.
Is essential. In another statement, Trump's lawyer said, quote, "The state has absolutely no power to impose the restrictions it's demanding. This is not about health and safety, it is about targeting churches. Amen and amen.
Christian persecution engage. Neat.
Past MacArthur's defiant. He has no plans whatsoever to capitulate to these immoral demands. He said, and I am quoting him, quote, "It has never been the prerogative of civil government to order, modify, forbid, or mandate worship. Freedom of worship is a command of God, not a privilege granted by the state."
That last part is actually false. There's the First Amendment in the Constitution, which is a fairly secular document, but freedom of religion basically means freedom from it. The Establishment Clause says that basically Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. So, you know, you can believe that, but it kind of is a privilege granted by the state. You know, the government doesn't play a favoritism with religious belief.
State. Now, MacArthur's church is not alone. A number of churches in Northern California, in
Secular government.
particular, are defying the ban on worship, and churches in San Diego as well are defying the ban. Now, this backlash, this massive revolt, has actually been going on for some time now. Back at the end of May, it was already apparent that literally thousands of churches were going to intentionally disobey and disregard what they considered, rightly in my view, draconian lockdown orders. President Trump.
Okay, so I'm gonna share something real quick with you guys. Let me just stop this video for one quick second. Yeah, that's going on right now, and that's a serious problem. I'm going to share this article with you now just to illustrate that point. 1 second. Okay, from the New York Times. Churches were eager to reopen. Now they are confronting coronavirus cases. The virus has infiltrated Sunday services, church meetings, and youth camps. More than 650 cases have been linked to religious facilities during the pandemic. Weeks after President Trump demanded the America's shuttered houses of worship be allowed to reopen, new outbreaks of the coronavirus are surging through churches and across the country where services are resumed. The viruses have infiltrated Sunday sermons, meetings of ministers, and Christian youth camps in Colorado and Missouri. It struck churches that reopened cautiously with face masks and social distancing in the pews, as well as some that defied lockdowns and refused to heed limits on the numbers of worshipers. Pastors and their families have tested positive, so as have church youth ushers, front door greeters, and hundreds of churchgoers. I mean, this is 50 have contracted the virus after a pastor told congregants to hug one another. In Florida, a teenage girl died last month because she attended a youth party at a church. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now there have been some churches that have been smart, and they've actually paid attention to what the data and what the numbers have been saying, and that they've stayed closed for the sake of public health and safety. But it's this kind of ignorance, this kind of denial of what the facts and evidence say, that is a serious problem and issue that millions of Americans have to deal with, and we really have to call out this bullshit. It doesn't matter what you believe. This virus is out there, and it doesn't discriminate. It will take you out regardless of what the hell you believe or whatever you think God can protect you. Where's your God now? It certainly isn't protecting you from this damn virus. I mean, this is ridiculous. And the fact that there's a lack of available testing proves that it's just underreported. So this should just, it's only starting to get out of hand. And anyway, let's get back to the video. Okay.
Trump, of course, signed the executive order designating churches essential social services that can remain open in the midst of the pandemic. But when the Supreme Court handed down that decision that declared that casinos, right, indoor casino activity was cool, while indoor activity in churches wasn't, I think that was a game changer for a lot of people who've been more or less sitting on the fence with this issue and just trying to comply. And don't get me wrong, it is complicated. I think there could have been a very positive and highly cooperative way of working out how to worship together while addressing concerns for public health. But this absurd double standard that's being shoved down the throats of conservative Christians, where they can go to slot machines, but they've been banned from the sacraments, I think in many respects that was the last straw. And I think this goes way beyond the issue.
I mean, you could think that, but yeah, I want less. I want less cases emerging just because some people need to feel the need to just ignore what the medical science is saying, what the doctors are saying, just to get their jollies off. Okay.
To just religious liberty and how the state has no constitutional right to restrict the gathering together for worship, which we as Christians see as a duty and a requirement given to us by God. Think about it. I mean, think about it. In the midst of this deadly pandemic, don't you want churches full of prayers and petitions? Don't you want a praying nation?
You know what, bud? You convinced me. In a global recession, with a pandemic that has killed more than 712,000 globally, over 160,000 nationally, and left millions of Americans unemployed. What's the solution? More prayer. Because societies tend to do well and tend to pray more when they're stable and living their best lives. Oh wait, that's patently fucking absurd. Let me give you an example. Let me stop showing this video for a brief second. Japan. Japan is a fairly irreligious country. They have utilized masks universally for their population. You know what? What's their death toll? Let's check. Let's check on that real quick. All right. Okay. In America, masks have become a weapon in the culture wars. In Japan, wearing one is no big deal, and deaths have stayed low. That's right. They've been using masks. They're highly irreligious, and the death toll in comparison to the United States is low. That's ridiculous. It took President Trump months before he actually wore one, though. This is ridiculous. They're only they only have 900 deaths. That's less than a battalion worth of people. Meanwhile, millions of infected and hundreds of thousands are dead in our country. That's ridiculous. No, I don't give a fuck about people praying. I don't want more people praying. I want people actually getting off their asses and working. I want more available testing. I want more resources. I want to see people actually following the rules of social distancing and wearing masks, doing whatever they can to actually reduce the numbers, because I feel like a single pair of hands at work is worth more than a billion clasps in prayer. And the difference between that and prayer is that with the latter, it has a ton of evidence to the contrary. Okay, back to the video.
Well, not if you're a left-wing liberal. world? No. But I think this goes beyond even the issues of religious liberty. What we have to understand is that in making this absurd decision, what the Supreme Court in effect did is it officially consigned the church as nothing more than a mere private organization, like a pizzeria or a dry cleaners. According to the Supreme Court, at least 5 judges on the court, the church is literally nothing more. The church is a mere private organization, and as such, it has no public relevance whatsoever. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because you got to get the social and political ramifications of that decision. Because I don't think the devastating effects of that decision have really hit us. It certainly hit John MacArthur and his tens of thousands of other, his congregation, tens of thousands of other Christians in California. But what we have to understand is that there's a radical difference between public life and private life. Public and private fields of life operate according to very different social dynamics. What belongs to one does not necessarily belong to the other. And this is essential for us to understand. So follow me here. Public life consists of the objective. Private life consists of the subjective, the personal. Public life is obligatory, taxes and all, right? Private life is the optional. Make sense? Public life involves rules that apply to everyone. Private life involves rules that apply to only some. And so what we have to understand is that for the last 1,500 years, the Christian church has been part of the public life of Western civilization. And as such, it's worked side by side with the state to cultivate civic virtue and foster.
I don't think so. That's not the case at all. I mean, if you're trying to say that that there's some kind of connection to the state as far as encouraging Christianity for the population, that's false. Religion is a part of one's private life. The church is a private organization in the sense that, especially with regard to the Christian church, because that's one religious faith. Okay, pretty sure Jews don't drive with that. Pretty sure Muslims don't drive with that. That's why they have their own places of worship in order to fulfill their own private spiritual needs. All right, we are a secular nation as far as the laws are concerned in this country. As far as the Constitution is set up, it is a secular document. For example, you cannot have the 10 Commandments on a public owned. Actually, no. Excuse me. You can have the 10 Commandments in front of a government building. Why? Because that would be supporting a particular religion over others, and we are a secular nation, a constitutionally secular nation. We can't have favoritism of one faith over another. That's not how it works. Okay, we either have to represent them all or just leave them out. But we have to keep the government secular. That's just the way we set it up, and that gives people freedom of religion and freedom from religion, an equal foot and an equal voice. That's how it works. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
A flourishing social and cultural life. So while church and state, for the most part, always remained distinct in that the state wasn't the church wasn't the state, sword and sacrament differential, that all, they nevertheless work together in an accommodationist relationship where they work together to cultivate civic virtue and foster.
I disagree. I don't think that's how the founding fathers set it up. Pretty sure they wanted a secular government. They kind of got that from that. I'm pretty sure that Virginia Amendment or law that sort of evolved what we have with the First Amendment. But that's all I gotta say about that. That's my 2 cents. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and his crazy ideas are gonna get more people killed, if not arrested, if not killed, due to ignoring the CDC and the empirical data and so forth. But that's all I gotta say. That's my 2 cents on the situation. This has been Wolf King. Peace out. If you like this video, you know what to do. My final thoughts are just actually just look at the facts, look at the trends, look at the correlation in these given scenarios, and just go with what the evidence says. You think it's a good thing to congregate in places in the midst of a pandemic? I mean, of course not. Come on. All right, this has been Wolf King. Peace out. If you like this video, you know what to do. Stop by there, know, hail Satan, and peace out. Stay safe and stay healthy. Good night.